Excuse me, what? A mock draft coming from the Athletics' Zach Harper lands us with not just any prospect, but the prospect of the 2025 NBA draft, and we are going to break all of it down here on Spurs Digest with your host, Keenan Warner. And if you guys haven't yet, make sure you guys take a spur of the moment to get every Spurs moment by hitting that free subscribe button so you don't miss all the great content we have coming for you, because 75% of you aren't subscribed, and that's insane. But let's get right into it. NBA Mock Draft Chaos Edition. And I know you see that and now you're thinking, oh, this absolutely isn't real. Well, we're going to talk about it, and there is the outside chance that this is real or this is possible because of who is involved. A Cooper Flag, Dylan Harper swap. Let's get weird. Shout out to Zach Harper for this. It's a good read. But aren't many things I love in June more than a mock draft, of course. Learning about prospects, NBA draft, lottery, determining order. But once we know that order, start moving toward the first announcement of the team on the clock. I start pouring over everything that's putting together with a fine-tooth comb. Of course, as we all are, every report that comes out, it's like, okay, this has changed, and that is the beauty of the NBA draft. But once it's once it's June 25th at 8 p.m., I don't know what's going on in February with the draft, but once it's June 25th at 8 p.m., we will actually know what's going on with the NBA draft. But remember the draft night in 13 where you're like, oh, Oladipo and Nerlens Noel, and then obviously Anthony Bennett gets chosen, and you're like, wait, what happened? What did Cleveland do? You don't always get that mayhem, but you do get mayhem in these drafts a lot. You have prospects who drop. And of course, we know the number one pick in this draft is slotted to be Cooper Flag, who has that pick we're going to talk about here in a second. But obviously the Mavs right now have that number one pick, and Cooper Flag is the guy that's going to be taken. At 2, we know that the number 2 pick in the draft is going to be Dylan Harper. As of right now, the San Antonio Spurs have that pick, as we know, and that is what we expect. So the 1 and the 2, we know who that's going to be. But trade to announce in this mock draft. The Dallas Mavericks are trading the draft rights to Cooper Flag, trading PJ Washington and Caleb Martin to the San Antonio Spurs in exchange for Dylan Harper, the 14th pick in the draft, Spurs 2026 first round pick, a lottery protected 2028 first round pick, and Keldon Johnson. This is right. Harrison couldn't help himself after getting skewered for not getting enough for Luka Doncic. He's getting a lot of draft capital in return in this deal. Let's break down why this trade would happen for both teams. So the Spurs pairing of Flag and Wemby, we understand why you would want Cooper Flag as a San Antonio Spur. So you get Flag and Wemby together, and then you have Castle and Fox. So you have your Wemby at the 5, Flag at the 4, you have Castle at the 2, Fox at the 1, Harrison Barnes at the 3. We didn't even give up Devin Vassell in that trade. You have to remember this trade involves the 14th pick and 2 lottery picks in Keldon Johnson. So we still have Jeremy Sochan and we still have Devin Vassell. Those will be your 2 guys off of the bench in this scenario. Plus you have a guy in PJ Washington who can play, and a guy in Caleb Martin who has played in big games deep into the playoffs and has showcased how he actually can play on that stage. We saw him put big moments up against Boston in the conference finals just a few years back. So that is 9 deep of a roster that can go compete for a championship right now. The Spurs would do that in a heartbeat. I understand you're giving up the 14th pick, a pick next year, and then a lottery-protected pick in 2028. I get that that's a lot of draft capital, but we do have Atlanta's pick next year as well. So, I mean, we've got draft assets to give up. Actually, I think next year's the swap anyways. Regardless of what, we have draft assets to give up, and we got draft assets to complete. Defensively, we know that would be devastating. Sean Marion-esque defense. Obviously, we know offensively, Flag has the potential to be much more than Sean Marion, but defensively, we saw what Sean Marion did to LeBron James in the 2011 NBA Finals and how the Mavs were able to upset that great Heat team. But then you ask yourself, okay, we know why the Spurs would do this, But why would the Mavs do this? Part of the Harrison trade will actually shock you at this point. That's the thing. He didn't just trade Luka Doncic away for Anthony Davis, Max Christie, and a pick. He didn't really offer Luka to anybody else. He asked, hey, Anthony Edwards, cool. Hey, Victor Wembanyama, cool. And then just went on and did this trade behind closed doors where not many people knew about it, and it was just the most insane thing that we have seen, honestly, in our NBA lifetimes for the most part, unless you were Kareem Abdul-Jabbar or things along that nature when we're talking trade purposes. He didn't even go and get Austin Reeves out of it. You could say to yourself, Anthony Davis, Austin Reeves, Max Christie, couple picks. You're like, you know what? I love Luka and I get it, but I guess we got a lot in return. You get a young guard plus Anthony Davis, plus you have Kyrie Irving, and then you got Klay Thompson. You can talk yourself into that team can go compete. If you just wait and don't trade Luka, see how this year goes after getting to the finals last year, maybe you trade him straight up for Giannis, and you get your defensive guy because you want to go more defensive, but you get the second best player in the league. So he does the Luka trade, and you think that it's not possible that he trades out a flag, and we clearly are. The Spurs are boosting up Dylan Harper's trade value with all of this. Everybody's offering everything, and they're just saying no. Giannis was even we don't know what's behind closed doors, but they're in where it's we don't want anybody but Harper. But Cooper Flag is in their sights. If they could get Cooper Flag without having to give up Castle, Wemby, of course, and all those kind of pieces, of course. You grab Dylan Harper now that with Kyrie Irving out with a torn ACL, we know that he's not going to be there, but he can learn from a veteran like Kyrie. You still have Klay Thompson. In this trade, you don't have PJ Washington, but you do have Derek Lively. You do have Daniel Gafford to go along with Anthony Davis, who doesn't want to play the 5. And now the Mavs can be a contender this year, especially because Dylan Harper has the poise to be someone who can make big plays already. So you get the Dylan Harper, and then you get Kyrie Irving possibly coming back towards the back half of the season. That's a nice team. That is a team that can really compete for something. Kyrie, Harper, Klay, and then you got AD Lively with Gafford coming off the bench, and then you fill that in with ancillary role pieces. Yeah, that team looks like it could be something. And you know what? This is Nico Harrison we're talking about. Anything is possible. You would have, coming into this year, if you're like, yeah, he would never trade Luka. Psych, I lied. Yeah, he would. He would just go trade Luka and get literally pennies on the dollar. Not pennies on the dollar, getting a couple quarters on the dollar, only because of the fact that Luka is young, Anthony Davis is not. He now has an injury-prone team that has a 2.5-year, 3-year window at max. Without this, you get Cooper Flag, but why not go get Dylan Harper? You go get I didn't even mention the 14th pick in the draft, who they can go get Carter Bryant, a wing who can play defense now too. The Mavs could do this, and obviously with the Spurs do this. They're a top 3 team in the NBA, and the Spurs are the Western Conference at least, and the Spurs are going to go make a deep playoff run with that roster this year, and they got it for the future. But I understand that it's chaos. I understand that it is crazy. But since that trade with Luka, I'm putting nothing off of the table. Absolutely nothing off of the table. Are you guys putting everything off of the table like this will never happen in a million years? Let me know in the comments if you feel like this would never happen, this shouldn't even be a thing, we shouldn't even think about it, or if you actually think there's a chance that Nico could go double down and do something insane like trading Cooper Flag for Dylan Harper. But this has been Spurs Digest with your host, Keenan Warner. I appreciate every single one of you who tune in, give your comments, give your feedback, continue to do that. Josh, Brian, and I are super appreciative of everything that you guys have given us and you've provided for us, because really all we're here to do is talk Spurs, because we all love the Spurs, equally, more or less, in between. But this has been Spurs Digest, and I hope to see you guys very soon.